Welcome, everyone, to the NoDQ.com live recap of Monday Night Raw for March 2nd, 2026. We are coming off the Elimination Chamber premium live event, and we are now full-blown WrestleMania hype. We are on the road to WrestleMania. Let's talk about the show. We opened up with a video recapping the Elimination Chamber, included footage of Danhausen, more on him in just a little bit. But we had the Vision storming to the ring. Paul Heyman spoke on the mic and said that Seth Rollins, he stole the credit for co-founding the Vision and the Shield. He also stole the main event of WrestleMania from Logan Paul. He said that they are going to stomp Rollins' ass out, and Heyman said that that wasn't a prediction, that wasn't a spoiler, that was a personal guarantee. And then Logan Paul called Rollins a scumbag, said the rest of the show was not happening until Rollins came down there. Adam Pearce showed up with security. Pearce thinks that they attacked Jey Uso, but Heyman denied it, and Heyman said that they will not apologize for what happens to Rollins. Pearce stated that Rollins is not medically cleared to compete, and then all of a sudden, a masked man jumped the barricade. Security chased after him, and then another one appeared. Logan chased after that one. We had a third one. Theory went after that guy, and Paul Heyman was in the ring all alone. And then a fourth masked man came out, and while Heyman was looking at this guy, a fifth one came into the ring with a steel chair, and as it turns out, it was in fact Seth freaking Rollins. He hit Heyman in the back with the chair, recreating the moment where Rollins turned against the Shield, and it was in the same building, Indianapolis, Indiana, same building, same city, where Rollins broke up the Shield. They recreated the chair shot, and then Rollins took it a step further, delivered a curb stomp to Paul Heyman, and somehow Heyman got busted open. He was bleeding from the nose, maybe a broken nose. He got loaded into an ambulance, and then Jimmy Uso showed up and attacked Austin Theory. Officials came in, and then Jimmy went over to the driver of the ambulance, who turned out to be LA Knight. And LA Knight, using a line from The Simpsons, he said that Paul Heyman, he'll get the help that he needs. And then LA Knight drove off with the ambulance that had Paul Heyman inside. Dave Scheffler sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Dave. Dave says, great change of pace, start to Raw, from Heyman beating down to Jimmy attacking Theory to LA Knight driving the ambulance. Surprised it was Paul Heyman taking a bump. Paul Heyman took a great bump, and it was a bloody bump at that. This segment was great. This was one of the best openers to Monday Night Raw in a while. Felt like an Attitude Era style opener with the chaos, all the different masked guys. Kind of reminds me of WCW Nitro from its peak, when you had all the Stings coming around and confusing the bad guys. So this definitely felt like a late 90s type of opening to a show. And then LA Knight in the ambulance driving Paul Heyman away. Very Attitude Era-like. Reminds me of Stone Cold driving the ambulance, or being in the ambulance and attacking Bret Hart. So yeah, I love the opening to Raw. I thought it was fantastic. Now, Jeremy Dorset sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, 6-man Hell in a Cell WWE title main event. Main event 1, night 2 street fight for the World Heavyweight title. Main event 1, main event night 2. Not sure what night you're referring to, but as we talked about on the Elimination Chamber recap, it will not be the night 2 main event. It could be a Hell in a Cell match with every other top star they have, but Roman Reigns is the night 2 main event. I do like the idea, though, of a 6-man Hell in a Cell match, or even a 5-man, 4-man. I think they should do Hell in a Cell, considering all the bad blood going on. But wouldn't shock me either if Cody Rhodes beats Drew McIntyre and we get McIntyre versus Fatu. Maybe Fatu costs McIntyre the title and they do Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes one-on-one and Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu one-on-one. I mean, I could see that happening as well. We'll find out on Friday in Portland, Oregon for Friday Night SmackDown. All right. Now, I will get to this one from Shaku Mafia. I will get to that at the end when I talk about the final segment. And Dave Scheffler, I'll get to your other super chat when we talk about the end. We had Gunther come into the ring for the opening match against Dragon Lee. Now, Dragon Lee jumped Gunther from behind, and they fought around ringside, but then Lee was back body dropped over the barricade. After the commercial break, Gunther dominated for a while, but then Lee made a comeback. He used his quickness. Gunther missed a big boot in the corner, and then Gunther was sent to the outside. Dragon Lee went for a suicide dive, but Gunther caught him and chopped him into the ringside apron. And then after a second commercial break, Gunther countered the Operation Dragon, and Gunther powerbombed Dragon Lee. Could have beaten him, but lifted him up and then powerbombed him on the ring apron and then the announce table. And then Gunther tried another powerbomb, but somehow Dragon Lee countered this. Dragon Lee was able to overcome a lot of punishment here. He hit the Operation Dragon on the outside. Gunther barely beat the 10 count. And then Gunther was able to counter Dragon Lee and finally get the win with the sleeper hold. And he ripped off Dragon Lee's mask in the process, very briefly exposing his face on camera. And Dragon Lee did, in fact, tap out. I thought it was a good match, although it felt like it was a little too competitive, considering Gunther retired John Cena, Bill Goldberg, and AJ Styles. Dragon Lee has kind of been a prelim guy. Now, if Dragon Lee was going to get a big push out of this, maybe I would feel differently, but I just sense that he'll be forgotten about again and he'll just be another guy on the roster. And I don't like the idea of Gunther struggling this much against a guy who is so low on the card that the company isn't necessarily going to push. Kind of reminds me of one of those AEW matches where, you know, the top star is selling too much for the lower card guy, and, you know, they're trying to give the lower guy a good showing. But I think it works when you're pushing that lower card guy and he's going to be something bigger, but I just don't see that with Dragon Lee. I feel like Dragon Lee has probably reached his ceiling in WWE. I really don't think he's going to get that far. But it was a good match. And shout out to Walter Cruz, Rage of Wrestling, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. Says they're going to do Attitude Era Styles opening as a cross promotion of the game since it's all about the Attitude Era. Well, I didn't even think about that, but that wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. Get people talking about the Attitude Era on social media when you're promoting the WWE 2K26 video game. If they are intentionally doing that, then kudos to them. But either way, I like the idea of doing these types of openers that feel more chaotic. They had a good one several weeks ago with Braun Breaker before he got hurt. And I definitely like that type of opening where things feel like they're out of control. So hopefully WWE will keep being creative with these openings and do more than just the standard guy comes out, cuts the promo, gets interrupted, blah, blah, blah. Backstage, we had Asuka yelling at Kairi Sane and she was very upset about Elimination Chamber, and she stormed off, and AJ Lee walked over to check on Kairi, told her to blink twice if she needed help, and then Asuka yelled at Kairi off camera, as she does. AJ walked to the ring for a promo, and she said she didn't know if she could still go, but the people made her believe she can still fight. She said that Becky Lynch is behind her. WrestleMania is ahead of her. She said she'll be a fighting champion, and she called out the locker room to step up for a match. I thought the promo was fine, pretty standard. Now, two things. Number one, Becky Lynch being behind her. We all know every time the babyface says that they're moving on. Well, Becky will be back for AJ Lee. We know it's coming. And as far as her being a fighting champion, I hope that turns out to be true and she just doesn't defend the title one time before WrestleMania. Like if she does 3 or 4 title defenses, I would be a fan of that. But don't call yourself a fighting champion and then you only have 1 title defense before WrestleMania. I'll remember. Next up, we had the OG El Grande Americano backstage wishing Penta good luck in the IC title match. And then you had the new Americanos confronting him. And then the OG challenged one of them, either Rayo or Bravo, to a match. And it turned out to be Rayo, which we'll get to in just a moment. There was a Liv Morgan video package, and she said that Stephanie Vaquer doesn't know her struggles. And yes, Liv did admit that she got signed at 20, but maybe that Stephanie's just jealous that Stephanie was not hired during her first tryout. And Liv said she's a star and she's not going to dwell on the past like Stephanie Vaquer. And that was the only hype we got for that match on this particular show. But keep in mind, we still have a month and a half to go. Shout out to Jeremy Dorsett, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Jeremy says, I love the night 1 idea, 6-man Hell in a Cell WWE title to main event night 1, Punk versus Reigns main event night 2, street fight for the World Heavyweight Championship. As I mentioned on the recap for the Chamber event, I would like to see a stipulation for Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. Maybe they could do tribal combat, but I'm not a big fan of doing a regular match and then just following up with a stipulation. I think they should do the stipulation at WrestleMania and go all out for it and make it as brutal as possible. And we know we're going to get shenanigans anyways, so they might as well just make it a street fight. I would be fine with that, street fight or tribal combat, whatever. They should definitely do some sort of stipulation for Punk and Roman Reigns. Not that it needs it, but I feel like given all the bad blood with them, I want to see more than just a regular match. Shout out to Michael Van Korn. Thank you for that. Sent in a Canadian $14 super chat. Says, great to see some actual exciting things starting to happen on Raw. Honestly, it was one of the better Raws in recent memory. I agree. Now that WrestleMania is the next show, WWE is starting to kick into high gear. People were worried there was only 1 match announced and WrestleMania didn't have the hype of previous years, but they're also running WrestleMania later than they typically do. WrestleMania would sometimes be in March, and it's going towards the end of April now. So you definitely don't want to peak too soon. And I feel like now is when they're starting to get to the peak of the buildup. We still have like 5 or 6 weeks left, and they got time to hype people up on the matches and get people ready for WrestleMania. I mean, there's definitely time to make it happen. You know, some people are overreacting like, oh my God, WrestleMania is coming up. Well, it's 5 or 6 weeks away. There's not a rush, but I feel like they're moving at a good pace, and this show definitely built up some of the matches quite nicely. So thank you again for that. I agree with that. And let's move on here to the next segment, which was the OG Americano versus Rayo. Pretty standard match here, I think, because it was just the outside interference. Every time OG would get the upper hand, you'd have Bravo interfere, and then you had the new El Grande Americano interfering. And eventually, Rayo was able to, actually not Rayo, El Grande Americano hit the OG with a headbutt, and then Rayo did come off the top with a flying headbutt, but the OG kicked out, and then the OG knocked Rayo into Bravo, who was standing on the apron, and the interference backfired on the Americanos, and then the OG got the win with the German suplex. Not much to say about it. You know, I feel like they're building up to a mask versus mask match, and I think they said something coming up maybe for AAA, but I really think they should do the mask versus mask match at WrestleMania. Seems to be a match that's been quite some time in the making. Backstage, Finn Bálor spoke with Dominik and JD McDonough. Bálor brought up how he was happy with his match, even though it didn't go his way. And then Dominik asked if they would be there at ringside, and Bálor suggested that Dominik do it all by himself. And Dominik ended up having them at ringside, but, tried to act like he could do it by himself. But in the end, they did come out with him. We'll get to that in just a few moments. We had another Royce Keys video clip from the Stephanie McMahon podcast. This is like the third one now. Like, when are you actually going to have the guy on TV? I'm not sure what the deal is with him, but they got a new episode coming up, so one would think that they're going to do something else with Royce Keys besides showing clips from the Stephanie McMahon podcast. It was a great interview, but I mean, come on, announce something with him. Get him on TV. Just have him do some squash matches, anything. We had footage of Obafemi, and then Rusev interrupted and said he's tired of listening to Oba. He called out Oba for a fight. Oba came out there, got in the ring, told Rusev to make something happen, and then Rusev got in the ring. They went at it. They exchanged blows, but Oba got the best of him, sent Rusev out of the ring with a clothesline, and they did announce that the two of them will face on next week's Monday Night Raw. I would think that Oba's going to be on Raw, and Rusev will be fed to him. That's my guess at this point, unless they do a DQ and try to drag out the feud a little bit longer, which wouldn't really shock me. Then we had Bayley and Lyra Valkyria backstage talking about their struggles, and Lyra said she doesn't want to see her good friend Bayley miss out on WrestleMania again, suggested that Bayley challenge AJ Lee, and Bayley wanted Lyra to come with her to Pierce's office. And as they were entering, Io left, so there was a little tease of something there with Io Sky. And as it turns out, there was going to be like a 6-way match on next week's Raw. I think it's 6. And Bayley is in it, and also Lyra Valkyria is in it. So that idea to have Lyra come with her might bite Bayley in the ass. 6-woman match next week to determine AJ Lee's challenger for the IC title. I don't think Becky Lynch was listed in it. All right, moving on here. Dave Estevez, I will get to your super chat in just a moment. We had Jimmy Uso versus Austin Theory. Not really much of a match here. It was basically an angle. You had Austin Theory laid out on the table, and Jimmy was going to do an Uso splash through the table on the outside, but then Logan Paul got in the ring. Jimmy went after Logan, but then Theory came back in the ring, and it was a 2-on-1 attack, disqualification. But then Jey Uso's music hit. Jey came from under the ring with crutches, and Jimmy and Jey used the crutches as weapons and delivered the 1D to Austin Theory. I wonder if they're going to do a tag match, Usos versus Logan Paul and Austin Theory for WrestleMania. I mean, not really sure what else they could do with Jimmy and Jey. I mean, they could feud with the New Day again. Could be the Lucha Brothers, except I don't think that's going to happen now. More on that in a moment. But yeah, they're continuing that storyline with the Usos and the Vision, what's left of them for now. We had the first speaking appearance of Danhausen. Danhausen was backstage with Adam Pearce, and Danhausen noted that he debuted to a thunderous applause and ovation at Elimination Chamber. That was a funny line. And then he had his list of demands, his Demandhausen. He wanted a Hall of Fame induction this year. He wanted a Triple H finger-pointing picture. He wanted a personal assistant, and he wanted his face on all of the trucks. Adam Pearce was annoyed, and he wondered where the piece of paper came from, and Danhausen said it was from the toilet, and Adam Pearce just walked off. He brought in the Judgment Day to talk to Danhausen, and Dominik warned Danhausen to get out of their face. And Danhausen responded by doing what he does. He cursed Dominik Mysterio and then disappeared. I thought this was a way better segment than the debut. Not that the debut was bad. I just think that it wasn't what people wanted. They wanted Chris Jericho. I think that this was a better way to introduce him by actually having him talk because he's very funny. Danhausen does a great job with the comedic stuff, and Adam Pearce was a really nice straight man for Danhausen. This segment I thought was very strong, and I do think people will catch on to Danhausen. I do think that he's going to be fine, that people will be into the gimmick. They keep doing stuff like this, he'll be just fine. And I think he'll be able to overcome that debut that didn't quite go over so well. And I definitely feel like the internet reaction to this segment was a lot more positive than last week's segment. We had Rhea Ripley and Io Sky interviewed at the stage by Jackie Redmond. And this was an interesting segment. Not really sure where things are going with Io and Rhea in the future. Like, Rhea was hugging her close, and I thought they were going to kiss at some point. Like, they were really close. And Rhea said that it sucked to lose the tag team titles. She said Io has been so many things to her, but most importantly, her best friend. And she said that Io pulled her out of a dark situation, and Io told her to go handle business, win the women's title. And then Rhea said she will be on SmackDown this Friday to confront Jade Cargill face to face. It was an interesting segment, I will say that. And there were some interesting tweets between Rhea and Jade Cargill on social media. Check it out on NoDQ.com if you missed it. Shout out to Walter Cruz, Rage of Wrestling, who sent in a $15 super chat. Thank you for that, Walter. Says the problem saving Royce Keys for after WrestleMania, since those Raws and SmackDown lost its aura. Also, they're focusing on Oba Femi, and they have similar bodies, so they don't want Royce to get compared immediately to Oba, and that's his guess. Yeah, that could be, with Oba Femi being on on both shows right now. Like, he hasn't officially been assigned. Maybe WWE's waiting to get Oba on an official brand. But I say just put Oba on Raw, get Royce Keys on SmackDown, and there you go. But as I mentioned before with Oba Femi, yeah, that is an issue. The fact that you have these powerhouse wrestlers, Powerhouse Hobbs was a big deal in AEW, but he's got guys like Oba Femi, guys like Trick Williams, guys like Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. There's a lot of meaty guys in WWE, and it's going to be harder to stand out for Royce Keys, but they got to get him on TV. Just throw him out there, let him do some squash matches to establish him. He could beat one of the LWO guys, or he can beat up Kit Wilson. I'm sure they're going to use Kit a lot in those types of matches, and probably The Miz too, for all we know. Thank you again, Walter. And then we had the Intercontinental Championship. Penta challenging Dirty Dominik Mysterio. Judgment Day was out there. JD McDonough and Finn Bálor. Penta had the early momentum, but then Dominik took control, did the Three Amigos, gave Penta a DDT on the apron, and they both went over the timekeeper's table. We had 2 commercial breaks, and after the second one, Dominik hit the 619, went for the frog splash, but Penta caught him and snapped his arm with the sacrifice, and then Penta hit the Penta driver, but Dominik kicked out. Crowd bought into this. It was a good false finish. And then Penta charged at Dominik, but missed and hit the ring post. And at this point, Dominik was feeling desperate. Dominik, he asked Judgment Day for the timekeeper's bell. JD McDonough retrieved it, but then Finn Bálor stopped him, noting that Dominik was going to do it all on his own. And you had Penta diving over the top onto both guys, and then Penta dodged the 619, hit the Canadian Destroyer, 1, 2, 3, new Intercontinental Champion Penta, winning his first singles title in WWE. I mentioned the Lucha Brothers earlier. Seems like that's not going to happen anytime soon. Penta now has the IC title. He finally beats Dominik. Very good match. They're continuing the Judgment Day breakup. I really think we need Bálor and Dominik at WrestleMania. And Walter, I still think we're getting it. I still think we're getting Finn Bálor and Dominik at Mania. Doesn't necessarily need to be a title match, although Dominik still has that AAA title, so they could do it for the AAA title. I would think they're going to do it at WrestleMania. And who knows what match Penta will have at WrestleMania. Maybe they'll do a triple threat. You never know. But for now, congratulations to Penta. He's still doing great in WWE. They're still booking him strongly. David Estevez sent in a $2 super chat, says, Cero Miedo, finally. And who does he face at WrestleMania? Well, it could end up being a triple threat match. Hopefully he gets a spot. I don't think there's a guarantee he'll be on the card, but I could see them doing one of those ladder matches. It's lazy, but I don't really know what else they could do at this point, because I think the Vision's tied up, and they could do a triple threat. That might be the best option. Maybe a triple threat: Penta, Dominik, and Finn Bálor, and maybe that's when we finally get the breakup of Judgment Day. We'll see what they do. And yes, Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat. Is this all Danhausen's fault? Well, Danhausen did in fact curse Dominik Mysterio. And I like that. I like that the Danhausen curse has already been effective. And they got Danhausen involved in a storyline right off the bat. I think WWE did a really good job with Danhausen on this show. They had the backstage segment. He did the curse, and then Dominik loses the title. Like I said, I think Danhausen's going to be okay in WWE. and I think people will get into the character and it will grow on them. I think he's going to do well. I actually think he's going to do very well. We had our final segment of the evening, which was Roman Reigns coming to the ring for a promo. He said, "Acknowledge me," but then he got immediately interrupted by CM Punk. And Punk did acknowledge him, but noted that he hopes that Reigns was going to do more there than just have people acknowledge him. He said that could have just been a tweet. And Reigns wondered if the tweet he made about Elimination Chamber saying Punk looked tired, if that bothered him. Maybe Punk is thin-skinned. And Punk responded by saying, yeah, he's tired, but he's tired because he has to carry Roman Reigns' bullshit to WrestleMania for the next 7 weeks. And Punk brought up how they were in Indianapolis where the Shield debuted. And Reigns had to make it clear that Punk actually brought in the other two and not him. And then Punk said that he felt that he already won because he's gotten in the mind of Roman Reigns. And then Roman said that he would actually be indifferent if Punk wasn't the world champion. And Reigns said that WWE brought back CM Punk to make the 30 to 40-year-old virgins that live with mom and dad happy. Reigns said that maybe Punk could draw a house in Chicago, but being world champion, it's above CM Punk's pay grade. Reigns said that they can't really trust him, and he's just a punk-ass bitch. And then he said he might just put CM Punk on a John Cena-style retirement tour where CM Punk can then go to NXT and teach the next generation so they can come to the main roster and get squashed by Roman Reigns. Reigns then tried to walk out, but Punk stopped him. Punk was not done. Punk said that Roman Reigns is all alone, and Punk said he took away Reigns' wise man, and Punk said that Roman Reigns has made the list, and now Punk is going to bury him at WrestleMania, and not just bury him, but bury him next to his father. And then Punk stormed off. That was quite the line. The whole segment was great. Both of them are masters on the microphone, and it was a very strong ending to the show. Shaku Mafia sent in a $5 super chat, says, damn, that was a freaking ending. From Roman hinting the original supposedly Shield member of Chris Hero, then CM Punk mentioning Sika without mentioning Sika. That was a harsh line from CM Punk. I mean, that was Christian Cage level darkness there, saying that he was going to bury Roman Reigns next to his father. Reigns had a great line too. I love the 40-year-old virgin line. That was great. Just entertaining stuff with these guys. I am hopeful that for the next couple of appearances, they can try and change things up a little bit. Like if they just do a verbal debate every time Roman Reigns appears, he's got like 4 or 5 appearances. It's gonna get a little stale. So I'm hopeful that they can do some different things. I mean, could they actually do some kind of a tag match or something with these guys where they're interacting? I don't know. Maybe they don't want to risk either guy getting injured at this point, but I hope it'll be more than just your standard back and forth promos. But for what it was, very strong ending to the show. And Dave Scheffler sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you, Dave. Says, Raw was better than the Elimination Chamber, in my opinion. It was a very good show. I mean, I don't know if I would go that far, but I mean, I went with a 6 for the Chamber as a PLE. I think I would go 7. So maybe this was a better show than the Chamber. I definitely think that it had a really strong opening segment, and the final segment was awesome. And you had a title change, Penta winning the IC title, and you started really not started, but continuing the breakup of Judgment Day. It's just a matter of when they pull the trigger on it. And we had AJ, her segment, setting up a new challenger for her. Some of the stuff in the middle was just okay. The El Grande match was fine, but I mean, I think they're building up to something big with that. So all in all, I did enjoy Raw. 7 out of 10. Pretty good show this week. Things definitely heating up for WrestleMania. And I'm looking forward to what other matches they add to the card and what's going to happen with the WWE title. But that will be on Friday for SmackDown. Thank you all so much for watching. No, I will not be picking up the new game. I tried 2K25. Could not get into it, man. I'm just not liking the 2K style of games. I was a big fan of the THQ games on Nintendo 64 and GameCube. Those were my style. Those are the type of games I like. 2K went too far from that formula, and I couldn't figure it out. Like, the controls were awkward to me, and I just couldn't get into the game. So, nope, I don't like the 2K games. Just my own personal taste. But thank you guys again, and stay tuned to NoDQ.com. We do have the No DQ review to recap everything that happened over the past couple of days. So stay tuned for that. No DQ review Tuesday night. And I got a little surprise for everybody. We got a brand new edition of The Adventures of Jeff Jarrett and Big G. So make sure you guys tune in for that one. That will be airing on the No DQ review Tuesday night, along with our usual discussion. Take care, everybody. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.